You want to know why nobody touches humanity? I can see it in your eyes, delegate. You are young. Your species joined this council only 40 years ago, and you grew up in a galaxy where humans are treated differently. You have seen the way other ambassadors lower their voices when our representative walks into the chamber. You have noticed that no one argues when Earth speaks, and now you sit across from me with your recording device and your polite smile, and you ask the question every new species eventually asks. Why is the galaxy afraid of us? Fine, I will tell you, but you are going to sit there, and you are going to hear the whole thing, not the version they teach in diplomatic schools, not the clean summary your professors gave you, the real thing, every part of it. My name is Ilara Voss. 60 years ago, I was a tactical officer aboard an orbital defense platform above a world called Eridu. And Eridu is where this story begins. Eridu was a small colony on the edge of the Riven Expanse. 42,000 people lived there. I want you to understand what kind of people they were, because that matters. They were not soldiers, they were families. Engineers who came to build water filtration systems, researchers studying the planet's strange magnetic soil, teachers who opened the colony's first school and painted the walls yellow because they said children learn better in bright rooms. My neighbor on the platform was a woman named Sarah. She had a daughter, 8 years old, who used to draw pictures of the 2 moons that rose every evening over the colony. She would hold up her drawings on video calls and say, "Look, Commander Voss, I got the colors right this time." I told her they were beautiful. They were. That was Eridu, not a fortress, not a military installation, a place where people had come to build something gentle in a rough galaxy. Now let me tell you about the Dravari. The Dravari hegemony had controlled the Riven Expanse for centuries. They are a proud species, hierarchical. Their culture is built around dominance. They do not see negotiation as cooperation. They see it as a temporary retreat, a pause before they take back what they believe belongs to them. Humanity had secured settlement rights to Eridu through this very council. The Dravari agreed to the terms. They signed the documents. They smiled for the diplomatic feeds, and I suppose most of the galaxy believed that was the end of it. I did not. I had read Dravari history. Every treaty they had ever signed eventually ended the same way, but I wanted to believe. We all did. We wanted to believe the system worked. It did not. I was running a routine diagnostic on the platform's sensor array when the alarms went off. I remember the sound. I hear it still, some nights, when the room gets too quiet. A Dravari war fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above Eridu. Not a patrol group. Not a diplomatic escort. A full armada. More ships than I could count on the tactical display. There was no warning. No hail. No demand for surrender. No declaration of war. They simply opened fire. And delegate, they did not fire on my platform. They did not target the colony's small defense systems. They fired on the residential sectors. They targeted the housing blocks where families were sitting down to dinner. They targeted the school with the yellow walls. They targeted the medical center and the hydroponic gardens where people grew tomatoes and sunflowers because it reminded them of home. They were not trying to conquer Eridu. They were trying to erase it. My platform returned fire, but we were a stone thrown against a tidal wave. Our weapons barely scratched their shields. I watched the tactical display as the colony's signatures winked out, sector by sector. Each light that disappeared was a neighborhood. Each gap in the grid was a place where people had been alive moments before. I began receiving transmissions from the surface. Fragments. A man hiding in a basement with his 2 sons, whispering coordinates, begging someone to come. A teacher, the one from the yellow school, saying she had 11 children with her and the building was coming apart. An old man, a retired engineer, broadcasting on an open channel, listing the locations of underground shelters so that anyone listening might find the survivors. One by one, the transmissions went silent. My platform lost power. I ordered my crew to abandon the station. We climbed into escape shuttles and drifted toward the edge of the system, broadcasting distress signals on every frequency humanity has ever used. I watched Eridu from the viewport of a lifeboat. The atmosphere was burning. The world that had 2 beautiful moons was gone. Out of 42,000 people, 637 survived. Sarah's daughter was not among them. I will carry that number in my chest until the day I stop breathing. 637. The Dravari hegemon, a creature named Torvax, sent a transmission to the entire galaxy after the assault. He was proud, triumphant. He announced that humanity's presence in the Riven Expanse had been cleansed, and he warned every other species not to settle in Dravari space. Then he looked directly into the recording device and addressed Earth. He said, "Send your fleets. We welcome the challenge." That, delegate, was his mistake. Not the attack itself, terrible as it was. The galaxy had seen attacks before. It was the invitation. He wanted humanity to come rushing in, furious and reckless, so he could break us in a glorious battle and cement his legend. What he got was something he never imagined. Earth went quiet. I was not there. I was in a medical facility, being treated for injuries I sustained during the evacuation. But I have spoken to people who were on Earth when the news arrived. They all described the same thing: a silence. Not the silence of shock or grief, though there was plenty of both. A different kind of silence. The silence of something vast and patient beginning to move. The United Earth Navy's High Command convened within hours. The footage from Eridu played once. The entire room watched without a word. When it ended, Fleet Admiral Kofi Asante looked at the star chart on the wall and said 5 words. "Show me their homeworld." There was no debate, no vote, no discussion of measured response or diplomatic alternatives. The Dravari had offered no mercy to 42,000 civilians. They would receive none. But here is the part that frightened the galaxy, delegate. Humanity did not rush. There was no frenzied mobilization, no furious charge across the stars. Instead, Earth assembled its true military capability, the part the galaxy had never seen. You see, the colonies and outposts were the gentle face of humanity. Behind them, Earth had been building for a century, quietly, patiently, not because they feared the Dravari specifically, but because humanity had studied the history of this galaxy and understood a simple truth. The universe does not protect the kind, it protects the prepared. The Black Fleet mobilized. I will not describe its full composition, because frankly, much of it remains classified to this day. But I will tell you that it was larger than anything the Galactic Council had predicted humanity possessed. It carried weapons that no other species knew existed, and it moved with a calm, deliberate precision that made the Dravari High Command very, very nervous. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of absolute silence from Earth. No threats, no ultimatums, no angry speeches, just silence. I have since learned that those 3 weeks were the most frightening period in modern galactic history. Every intelligence service in the galaxy was scrambling to understand what humanity was doing. The Dravari sent scouts. The scouts did not return. You know what is more frightening than an enemy who attacks in rage, delegate? An enemy who goes quiet, thinks, and arrives with everything. Before the fleet departed, Earth sent a single transmission to the Dravari homeworld, Drakkar Prime. It was not a threat. It was not a demand for surrender. It was a document. A list of every civilian population center on Drakkar Prime, their precise coordinates, and their estimated populations. Nothing else. No commentary, just data. Then, a second transmission, an evacuation window. 72 hours. Every Dravari civilian vessel would be permitted to leave Drakkar Prime without interference. I want you to note this, delegate. I want you to write it down. Humanity gave them 72 hours. Humanity gave them a chance to save their families, their children. The Dravari gave Eridu nothing. Not a second, not a whisper. The hegemon laughed. He broadcast his response publicly. He called it a bluff. He called humanity cowards trying to frighten him with paperwork. He ordered no evacuation. Some Dravari civilians tried to leave anyway. Thousands of them rushed to their ships, loaded their families, and headed for orbit. And do you know what happened, delegate? The hegemon's own fleet fired on the evacuation transports. He stopped his own people from leaving. He called them traitors and cowards for trying to flee. He trapped his own civilians on that planet to prove he was not afraid. Remember that. Remember that when you judge what came next. The Black Fleet arrived at Drakkar Prime on the 73rd hour. I was aboard the Prometheus. I had been recalled from medical leave and requested assignment to the fleet. Command approved. I needed to be there. I think you understand why. The Dravari Armada was waiting. The same ships that had burned Eridu, reinforced with everything the hegemony could gather. They outnumbered us. Their hegemon stood on the bridge of his flagship and broadcast one final message to his people, telling them the humans had come to be broken. The engagement lasted 11 minutes. I will not call it a battle. A battle implies two sides with a chance. This was a demonstration. Humanity's technology was a generation beyond anything the Dravari had anticipated. Their shields failed. Their formations collapsed. Their ships went dark, one after another, like candles in a wind. The Hegemon's flagship was disabled, not destroyed, deliberately. Command wanted him to see what happened next. With orbital control secured, the UEN Leviathan moved into position. It was the largest vessel humanity had ever constructed. The galaxy did not know it existed. It carried a weapon that humanity had built and hoped it would never use, a gravitational array capable of destabilizing a planet's core. I will describe what happened next with precision, because I cannot allow myself to describe it with feeling. Drakkar Prime's surface began to shift. Cracks spread across the continents. The oceans drained into widening fissures. The mountains folded. The atmosphere tore apart and scattered into space. In 14 hours, Drakkar Prime was rubble. 41,363 of ours perished on Eridu. The Hegemon had 6 billion on Drakkar Prime. I will not pretend the math was proportional. It was not meant to be. The Hegemon was pulled from his broken flagship. He was brought before Admiral Asante through a holographic link. He raged. He screamed. He called us monsters. Asante listened. Then he played the audio from Eridu, the teacher with her 11 children, the old engineer broadcasting shelter locations, the father whispering in a basement with his sons. When the audio ended, Asante said 6 words. You asked us to come. We came. The Hegemon was left alive, deliberately. A warning that would walk and breathe for the rest of its natural life. The Galactic Council condemned us. Of course they did. They called it disproportionate. They called it barbaric. They drafted sanctions. Our ambassador stood before this very chamber and said nothing for a long time. Then she played the Eridu footage, unedited, every second of it, the transmissions, the silence that followed. When it ended, she asked a single question. Which of you would have done less? The sanctions failed to pass, not because the galaxy approved of what we did, but because every species in this chamber watched that footage and thought the same thing. What if it had been our colony? And, more quietly, what if we are the ones who provoke them next? 60 years have passed since Drakkar Prime. In that time, humanity published the Asante Doctrine. Any unprovoked assault on human civilians will be answered with the complete and permanent removal of the aggressor's homeworld. No exceptions, no negotiations, no proportional response. The galaxy calls it extreme. The galaxy also notes that in 60 years, not a single human outpost has been touched. Not one. They call us monsters. They also step aside when we walk past. I have made my peace with that. So there is your answer, delegate. You asked why the galaxy treats humanity differently. It is not because we are the strongest, though we may be. It is not because we are the most advanced, though we have our secrets. It is because we are the only species in this galaxy that will look you in the eye, carry the full weight of what we have done, and tell you with absolute honesty that we will do it again if we must. We did not want this. We came to the stars to build gardens and raise children on worlds with 2 moons. We wanted to paint school walls yellow and grow sunflowers in alien soil. We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. But we protect our own. And the galaxy learned, at a cost I wish had never been paid, that there is no force in the universe more dangerous than a gentle species that has been pushed beyond its limit. You may turn off your recording device now. Delegate. I believe I have answered your question.